Greetings and welcome to the Battlefield 3 Dev commentary. This run was made as part of a charity event to raise money for the Prevent Cancer Foundation. It is provided free of advertisements, and instead I would like to ask that if you enjoy this content, please consider leaving a small donation. You will find a link to the donation page on screen and in the video description. Enjoy! And I think it's at a certain point when you get far enough down the line when you start making a game, you kind of just, you have to finish it.
Yeah.
The only direction you can walk is forward. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's cool things. I don't know how far we'll get. I think like the Paris mission had moments that were really pretty cool. There are a couple other missions that I thought like had moments that were pretty cool, but you know, it really was. The game was kind of fighting itself, and so like I remember when we were doing this, there were super cool things, but the things that I remember that were super cool actually had to do with they were mostly technological, and you know, as a designer, that's probably not a good sign.
No, that might not be a good sign. I think there's also there were things that fell out of. Let's just say that the move between engines also was, like, from a production standpoint, very painful. That led to us trying to do much more than we could, and then had to cut down.
Yeah, I would say so. This was cool. Sorry, I'm just looking at this. I remember these guys.
Yep.
These were all. I liked working with these actors. Can't remember that guy's name. He was a good guy. Gideon something. And that's of course Glenn Morshower, who's terrific. And I did have fun like writing this and working with the actors. I think that was probably the. I wouldn't say it was a high point, but it was a point that I would say that I enjoyed. But I think one of the lessons that I learned on this project was like, I fell back instead of kind of doing the thing that I should have done, which is really focus on the game. I think I clutched the narrative closer than it needed to be. And so that if I had something to do over, I think I would have just been like, well, fuck this stuff. I really need to stand up for these other things. So yeah, that's one of the things I would like to redo if I could.
Yeah, so looking at that, it's kind of interesting that many games do have like specific narrative directors and lots of people. We didn't at that point have that, so we had some people working with it, but you did a lot of that too. Yeah. In addition to a lot of the actual game stuff, and of course everything suffered.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it was in a point in my career that I made some poor decisions about just doing too much. And you know, I think the game suffered, and we'll never do that again. But you know, it's like I figured I came off of BC2, you know, and I was like, well, I was lead designer and I was writing it and that was fine. I mean, it wasn't fine. I was working all the time, and Kurt's, you know, everybody knows it was not a good scenario, but it was doable.
Yeah.
But the thing that I didn't know is when the team scales to 200 or 250 people and the entire organization is kind of like, hey, this needs to be a big thing. You know, there's no way I could have dealt with that, and so I would say it took me a long time to figure that out, and too long, honestly.
Yeah. This is an interesting bit of the level. This is the first thing we ever did, pretty much, to like our first internal showing of the game was this section where we wanted to prove that this could be done, that we could do this and make it look this good, pretty much, just make it look good. And there's a lot of funny things in this. If you actually, I think we ended up releasing that as a trailer later on, and it was
it was a huge hit. This was the thing that got everybody amped.
Exactly, that was the first thing, and it's actually a fair bit different. One of the things we spent like ages on is getting his coffee cup to not fly away and to stick to his hand. That's the kind of detail you get in game development. You can't have a game where his coffee cup isn't like in his hand, but he also like we spent far too much effort on that damn coffee cup.
Oh yeah, the coffee cup. Can you knock the coffee cup over?
Don't think so.
I can't remember. Can you do something? Can you shoot it off of the?
I don't think you can do anything, but at least it doesn't like fly around into his head.
Yeah. I mean, like we spent it. This was I think it was called GPMM, right?
Yes,
I think it
or
was.
something like that at the point. Yeah.
Yeah, so we talked about like what would we do, what would be cool, and I remember we settled on like let's just do this thing that sort of feels like it's authentic and it's this tour of duty that sets up everything.
Yeah,
It's gonna come.
and it was also like with the stuff you mentioned before, like we didn't have a finished engine. This was all done on like components that were like. So we didn't have a proper combat at that point, or we didn't have. So we were doing like, let's showcase the stuff that we do have. We can make our characters move really cool. We can build like really authentic, mood from it. But we didn't have that much else.
No, and I guess all of us kind of figured, well, how big it'll come along eventually.
Yeah.
But it did, but kind of like a game later. In some ways. So we really did have to do a lot of stuff, I think, the hard way.
Yeah, and I think like, from a pure technical point of view, we did this, and it was one of those really demo situations where you go like, we'll do it, and it'll run on the biggest computer you can buy for money that needs its own nuclear power plant to even run.
Yeah.
And then afterwards you go like, well, okay, we need to run this on an Xbox 360. How do we do that?
Yeah, exactly. And everybody was like,
And then you were like, well, and
memory.
Yeah, and you're like kind of in a situation where you kind of promised that it would look this good, but it also has to start running. So you're like, well, you gotta remake this all once over.
Yep. I mean, I remember just plotting this stuff out. I wish the Infinity Ward guys I know, I wish we had like one of them to just like, as an advisor for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
I think we did a decent job, but with the key distinction that it just wasn't very fun. And, it's kind of a very key distinction.
There are a lot of parts of this game that are, they feel like they are a copy of some concept rather than well thought out by themselves.
Yeah.
Some of them are just... So there are parts of this game that are incredibly, like, visually violent.
Yeah.
In a way that they don't really need to be, and that there was actually... We'll get to that when we get to those points of the game, but it was kind of almost disturbing to work with at some points, because you're like...
There were a couple, like, there were a couple kills that I remember that were really...
yeah, they were really graphic.
Top, and then, it wasn't, like, a happy game in the same way that BC2 was, and even BC2, there are people getting knifed in the chest and and that was tough too to kind of. It's like an Uncharted when it's like a happy-go-lucky thing where you kill 500 people.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of dissonance there.
There is, but there's in the way it's very graphic. It changes how it is to look at it every day when you're working on it.
Yeah, I guess maybe I was just numb to that stuff because I was American. So I'm like,
I think
whatever.
It's different. It was okay most of the time too. Yeah. Whoops, it shouldn't be here. But
fucking guy.
Yeah, these are difficult. Got one. No, but it's sometimes because I would end up sitting like late in the project and we would debug it, and you would run one of those really graphic kill scenes over and over and over again, and you go like, this cannot be good for my mental health.
Yeah, maybe true. I remember like looking at this whole parking lot thing. I remember saying like the idea with doing this particular thing was like, can we make a parking lot fight feel cool?
Yeah.
And I think we made it feel cool. But again, was it really satisfying to play? No, I don't think so.
I think it's a decent fight.
Okay.
Yeah, and there were a lot of... This went through a lot of revisions. Like, there was supposed to be a big gash in the center of it once. It'd be like a construction site, half of it, and there's a lot of different revisions in that.
Yeah, God, so many.
But it does have the VO line that everybody loves and remembers from the game.
Oh yeah, I'm fucked up but I'm up.
Yep, I'm up. I'm fucked up but I'm up.
Fucked up but I'm up. I think I was reading some like soldier's journal or something.
Right.
Or maybe I was talking to one of the guys, because we did actually have a lot of like military advisors and people that like just would out of the blue contact me that were military. And that line came up, and I was like, oh, I'm stealing that. So that line has been immortalized. Yeah. Okay, keep it in. Keep it in. I never said that line, the one that they're claiming. That was Danko. I'm getting my. I mean, it was Marines making it up. Like,
Right.
I remember. But the multiplayer VO, those were all improv. Not like BC2 where they were written.
And there were a lot of things that happened very late with this project because of how the tech was not made in the beforehand and stuff, and a lot of stuff changed late. So a lot of the things that normally you have a better look on and you go through several times over wasn't looked at.
Oh yeah, this thing.
This thing,
This
yeah.
is a bitch.
I was also part of that initial demo, and I think the only real thing that we did there was to make the whole thing where you shoot down the building look awesome. That was the only point to it.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm trying to remember. All these. I feel like that whole first level, there were a lot of opportunities to do really cool stuff, and with most of it, I think we just didn't have either the resources or just couldn't quite get there. And this is still cool stuff, but I guess I look at it now and I'm like, oh, why did we do it that way?
It's also obviously easier when you've made a game like it before and you know kind of, well, okay, this is going to work, this is not going to work from experience.
Well, I can tell you now, we shouldn't have done it this way.
This part is very odd in many ways.
It wouldn't be odd, I think, if like it felt like it wasn't canned.
Yeah.
But because everything here was like, and you're going to curl into those positions, and it's going to be over there, and you're going to have
And he's going to give you the RPG while still having it on his back, and all the kind of things that, you know... And here we go. The magnificent event.
There it goes. Let's see. There was a story about this. Do you remember the thing where the Arabic was actually incorrect?
Oh yeah, there was
Someone
something like
told
that.
us and we changed it. I can't remember what it said originally, but I remember somebody pointed it out to us.
That's right. It was something. There's something wrong with it, and I don't know if it was the wrong word.
Wrong script.
I think what it is when you write Arabic in a word, you like connect the characters together. So I think in essence it said HOTEL rather than hotel.
Yeah, this is weird.
This is another interesting section. We had this idea on how this should happen. You covered his evac pretty much, and we worked on it, and it was kind of like, no, that doesn't work, and we just kept at it, and eventually we ended up going. We gave it to Victor, one of the designers, and he just sort of knocked it out in like one go.
Oh yeah, that's right. This like rush down the street.
Yeah.
Evac.
You have to take them out. Can't see anything. My squad is in the way.
Yeah, I remember
They're up
this
here.
was really, it was kind of unsatisfying because of distance when we first started doing it. You're like, you can't see anybody, and the whole street's obscured, and like, you know.
And then it's like suddenly all the enemies have swarmed you, and you haven't even noticed and stuff.
Yeah, and you've got like no purview because there's basically like these little, what do you call them? Just little divots that you can't do anything with, and you can't really destroy anything. And so yeah, there was just a whole bunch of stuff that was making this.
It's been
like
more
you're
than
sniping
15
in a
minutes.
box. That's what I think it's like. It's like sniping in a box.
I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, Avatar.
Insofar as like.
No, I mean a comment in
Oh,
the
what does that
chat.
mean?
It's like we were gonna have a pause for 15 minutes. I don't know if that's what he's commenting about? It's been more than 15 minutes.
But we're not paused.
No, we aren't.
That's baffling. Maybe
Yeah, I don't
some
know.
sort of time loop.
If your stream got stuck, maybe try reloading it if it doesn't. Well, I guess if when it doesn't hear this.
Many events result in an event target that does nothing. I don't know what that means. Do you know what that means?
No, not exactly. I think you're gonna have to clarify that.
He's talking about scripting, but I don't know what.
I did scripting, but it's hard to say. Like, it depends on if you're talking specifically about this game. In which case, I don't know exactly what the information you're basing it on is. Or if
Maybe he means, like it's a. Basically, it's you know, we have some condition, and you hit the trigger or whatever, the condition's realized, but it doesn't actually output anything different. Maybe I don't know. Looking at how the game is scripted, many event inputs result in nothing. Like what?
I have an example of that. That would be easier to talk about, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about. It sounds. The only thing I can think is I don't know if it's on like a narrative level or if it's on like an actual level or what. Anyway, we're crossing a thing here. This was all mocap. This game had so much mocap, it was kind of preposterous. Which is good and bad. But like when you would screw up a mocap thing, you would just be...
Yes, each of these little animations for when they climb down here is all canned stuff. It's specific mocap animations.
The AI soldiers have to open a door, but they don't do anything.
I think that if I understand that one correctly, it's a bug that I crafted in late where they run through a door.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well then that's...
It's a slow motion event in the parking lot. I think if you're looking into like how the specifics of the game are scripted, they do stuff.
Yeah.
All those things. It's just that
You can't see it.
you don't see it on screen, and there's no apparent effect because some of them are like dead ends on like on the server, and some are on the client, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I still don't really understand the question. It sounds like you're talking about things that you can perceive as opposed to things that are actually happening. You know.
There are a lot of things when you make a game that are like purely technical. Just it's nobody who's ever like really implemented a level to this scope is going to understand exactly how much weird stuff you do as workarounds to just make sure that the guy jumps over this thing in a correct way, and that you always see this guy and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff in there that at first glance probably doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I remember there was actually a problem here. Do you remember we had grenade throwing come in?
All right.
The fucking guy kept bouncing it off the ceiling because he didn't know the height of the ceiling. I can't remember why that kept happening, but it's like the throwing arc was wrong, so he would constantly frag himself.
Right. What were your favorite dev hacks during the SP?
Oh, I don't fucking remember.
For hacks, I think like one of the things in the beginning of this level is kind of indicative of hacks. I think it's when you start out in a car and you're driving to this pickup area, the gathering area, and the whole thing is stationary. Like, so there's all of the things are just like camera shakes and lights being moved outside to give the indication that you're moving, but everything is just stationary. You're just sitting still the whole time.
Yeah. Here's a question. So as we were devs, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the single player? Horrible linearity is one of the big weaknesses. I don't think there's any choice in any vector that you kind of look at. There's just the choice that I like in games. I don't have any. So like immediately, that's a huge problem. So I think
Yeah.
there's moments where it's not that, but they're few and far between.
Yeah, I think like one of the missions that most people like is the big, a bit more open. What is it? It's like a valley mission near the end of the game, and that
towards the end.
that displays a bit of like the stuff that the rest of the game is missing.
Yeah, I think there's like that one and the one. Paris one and the second one with Dima. I think the Dima missions were two of the best missions in the game, ironically, which is weird because I have often thought like it would have been better to just make the whole game about him.
Yep.
I think that would have been really much more fun, and I would have been personally like a lot happier with it. But then I don't know that everyone would have wanted to listen to Russian for like 6 hours.
Yeah, that was also another thing. We went back and forth on so long whether it would be Russian or not, or would be like. Translated the dumb like English with Russian accent kind of that thing, and we had recordings of both for a long time, and it like nobody liked anything at the end of that.
Yeah, I'm glad that we picked. This was a violent scene. This was the scene that you were troubled by.
No, this wasn't that. That was the knife one, and here's the thing: you're talking like Danny was mentioning Firestorm, and we probably don't know the names because the names of the mission gets set extremely late.
Yeah.
Like for me, this mission is called Earthquake because that's our temp name.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that Firestorm might have been Valley.
Oh yeah, I think it is.
But yeah.
I don't know. There's some stuff.
I think there's a lot of good stuff in like how it's presented, and like how the visual fidelity, how everything moves, and how like the characters actually move like humans.
Yeah, I think as there are a couple things. Like I think that we got the tone right. I would still say like that was a big deal for marketing. It was a big deal for the selling of the game. Was that it felt the way it did. But at the cost of a whole bunch. I mean, or I don't know if it's at the cost of, but like there's a lot of other stuff that I would have preferred to get right ahead of that. So
yeah.
All right.
A Firestorm is a tank mission.
Oh.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's SP tank. To us.
Yeah. All right.
There's an interesting piece where you are forced to pick up that weapon, but it's actually not all that good to do the section with that weapon. This is also. This is where, if we're doing this on hard, we would spend an hour.
Yeah.
This is extremely hard and hard.
Yeah, that's right. It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, this was one of the really painful points of difficulty when you're playing.
Yeah, because you would get screened by the bridge, and then
yeah, you had to. The only way I found to do it was you had to run up, grab the weapon, and run immediately back down to take cover. Sort of what the position I am in now.
I think it's interesting. Like I'm just looking at it now. The reason one of the reasons it wasn't that much fun. I think is you really wait. Is that dude just standing there? There's a guy just standing there.
There are probably a few of those.
You can fly the little bird. Wait, what?
Yeah, you can glitch. Whoops, that's no good.
I'm really curious about the flying of the little bird.
You can glitch it out to streaming somehow, and then you can get into the little bird.
Get the fuck out of here! That's super cool.
There is a bunch of that kind of stuff because we're using the actual assets like from multiplayer and the game. These are actual vehicles.
Yeah, that's super cool. I didn't know that. All right, light it up. There you go. Blow those cars up that are conveniently marked as blow-upable.
Yep. And all for this reason.
Yeah. It would be interesting to know what BF3 would have played like if it had EC2 levels of destruction. I think people would have. I think the game would be scored like 5 to 10 points higher. Ironically, just because it would have changed the game pretty significantly if that had been the case.
It might have. I mean, the problem with the way it was is that the cost of doing that would have been
to
have fewer houses and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's just an interesting, like, what if scenario.